Hey, check it out. When you say this game's name with a lisp, it kinda sounds like something that would accompany the Wonder Bra. In today's humble opinion, we're really feeling ourselves in Wandersong. Alright everybody, gather around. It's time for a good old-fashioned thought experiment. Trust me on this. Just take a moment to close your eyes, clear your mind, and relax. No, really, it's okay. As long as the video's running, it still counts as watch time. Oh, what's that? You want to see the video that I poured my heart, soul, and existential dread into? Well, alright. You buttered me up. You can keep your physical eyes open, but keep your imaginative eyes more open. Susan, I saw that pre-video subscribe. Much appreciated. Are we all on the same page? Reginald? Don Lemon? Okay. Imagine that you graduated from a liberal arts college with a bachelor's degree in fine arts. No, don't freak out. This isn't some horrific vision quest I'm taking you on. Besides, it works out for you for some reason. You have your degree in fine arts, but never leverage your talent to make any money. Presumably because it is your bleeding heart incarnate, and to make a living wage using it would make you a sellout. Despite not having a penny to your name, you live in a quaint little house within a utopian communist commune. Truly, life is splendid. Until one day you spot an ad in the newspaper. Apple is hiring a new CEO, and you've got an interview. While the person conducting it likes you, you're not really qualified for the position. God damn it, I will be the CEO of Apple and everyone will love me, you say to yourself, and you embark on a grand adventure full of conveniently art-related challenges across the globe. Somehow, despite all odds, you end up the CEO and everybody loves you, and you live happily ever after. How's that worked out for all of you art majors out there? Welcome to Wandersong, the game that's so hopelessly in love with the delusion that is positivity for positivity's sake that it's willing to glorify martyrdom and cuckoldry as virtuous and good. It's so intent on spreading positivity that it gives AIDS a run for its money, and it only has to be 2/3 as gay. That's what I call a fucking deal right there, buddy. That's right, despite some clearly left-leaning undertones like toxic masculinity and the cult of Wiccans with supremely fucked up hairdos, that's not what I'm going to complain about today. In fact, I want to say good job for not making me give a flying fuck about your non-binary character at the gunpoint of potentially being a bad person. It's a step in the right direction for true equality and says to me that this isn't some intentionally virtue-signaling douchebag or some big woke corporation pandering to people who desperately want to be able to see themselves as good. Seriously, I appreciate that. My issue comes from the fact that it's so divorced from reality that I'm pretty sure the notion of having my dick sucked by a Sasquatch has a higher probability of being relatable to any emotionally stable individual. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand perfectly that the game has both feet almost exclusively planted in the fantasy genre, but fantasy stories still have to have some feasible grounding in reality to be interesting, and Wandersong doesn't. But all of the bleeding hearts out there are going to insist that it does because it's real to them. I know, I've been there. Hi, how are you doing, my fellow mentally unstable people that want to make a positive impact on the world? This game speaks to and reinforces those that already put themselves last in favor of supporting others and suffer because of it. Maybe if you double down and sacrifice just a little more of yourself, it seems to posit, what you desire will finally happen and the world will change because of you. Anyone that's tried to change or help a truly toxic individual only to have their sense of self slaughtered mercilessly at the hands of reality can probably come to grips with why that's a bad philosophy. The Bard is a cuck, and not even in the conservative sort of way. In a way that tells me if he came home from a long day of singing at the office only to find old Lou balls deep in his beloved wife's crusty bean, he'd rush downstairs to cook them a hearty meal for the appetite they'd clearly been working up. Only after, of course, serenading them with the most sensual of ballads that he could conjure. What makes me say that? Well, the man tells me outright that he sometimes feels negativity but suppresses it so that he can spread only good things in the world. He had his best friend and potential love interest struck by the same lightning that has slain the deities of this world, but forgives the perpetrator on the grounds that they have to be nice, and then when he's betrayed by that person a second time because they aren't nice, he still tries to be hella altruistic and help her out anyway. He can't focus on his quest to save the world because he's too invested in the livelihood of complete strangers and what they think of him. He probably wears a chastity belt in case he gets the selfish notion of masturbating to his Christ-like sacrifice. It's pretty awful, and it only works for him because the game was literally built around that premise. Now listen, the intention here was good. The secret developer room tells us that everyone was going through some pretty shitty time in their life and they saw Wandersong as a beacon of hope in their otherwise bleak existence, and that they used that as inspiration to try and vanquish the darkness in the hearts of others by converting their sorrows into superficially happy themes. Unfortunately, when things are superficially happy, they tend to be more detrimental and hollow than they are substantial as they were supposed to be. I wanted to say good things about this game, man, but look at it. Look at the colors, the smiling faces, the chipper vibes. You know I had to do it to him. Wandersong, for its unfortunate missing of its own intent, earns a 5 out of 10, and I'm being generous. Not because the gameplay itself doesn't deserve more of my mind you. The mechanics were unlike those I'd ever seen before. They were novel and flexible enough to lend themselves to the developer's apparent competence and creativity. Sure, there were some odd collision issues that happened often enough I might go out on a limb to call them semi-frequent, but every level was beautiful and unique with new uses of the core mechanic. The characters were charming, the humor was snappy, and when I could ignore the greater scheme of things, I loved it. I just can't in good conscience recommend a game that's so ideologically disingenuous and misleading, no matter how good the intent was. Now, that's not to say that it had to be negative. I would have loved a positive game where the bard had to struggle against something more visceral than simply not feeling good enough, only to unsurprisingly discover that he'd actually been perfect all along. That perfection was never in doubt. He never had to grow or learn new skills. He just smashed his face into a brick wall until it was like, holy fuck dude, stop, you're getting blood everywhere, and moved out of his way. But no one's going to find walls like that in real life. Sometimes you have to challenge your strategies. Maybe you have to learn a new genre of music that you're not familiar with, or how to do taxes. But the bard didn't even have to do that. His biggest challenge was accepting that some people aren't as perfect or as amazing as he is, and that's deeply disappointing for an otherwise phenomenal game. Thank you everyone for watching, and special thanks to Greg Lobadov. I hope you're doing better, man. I hope you continue to grace the gaming world with your obvious talents and devising wild concepts that come at you from unexpected angles. Spreading joy is a noble goal, but it doesn't have to be so on the nose. A bright, funny, cheery game with strong gameplay is plenty. A self-imposed negligence of reality just comes across as depressing and concerning, at least to me. Until next time, remember that failure isn't the worst case scenario. To go on with your bad selves and stay awesome.